He's about to do this thing tonight. Let me see him while I wait for people to get here and pile in. Yep. I'm a little late, but that's okay. Better late than never, like I always say. Let's see here. What's this? Subscriber. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Okay, here we go. That works. I like that. I like that a lot. There we are. We're live, baby. We are live. Not many of y'all knew that we were going to be live tonight. I put a little memo out on Twitter. And for those of you who are missing my live streams, make sure you follow me on Twitter because usually I announce there when I'm about to go live. And typically I go live on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes I go live on Friday nights, depending on if my Fridays are available, you know? But tonight, we're live because I'm in the mood for some more Mrballen. We did a Mrballen reaction last week that I enjoyed. That was probably my favorite Mrballen reaction that I've done. The stories were so compelling. It's unfortunate what happened to some of the people in those incidents, but nonetheless, Mrballen does a phenomenal job of storytelling, and I had a great time. I know you guys did as well, so we're back to do it again. And with that being said, what up, AOK Mafia? It's your boy Artofkickz, and just like that, we back with another one. All right, y'all, so this video here is about 30 minutes long. It is titled, "This Demon Still Lives Among Us." I don't know if there's, I can imagine now. He's saying this demon still lives among us. I believe it's probably a guy that did something horrible, something bad, and he's free, meaning he's not in prison or deceased. So we're about to check this thing out. Y'all boys and girls ready? I'm not ready. Okay. So another announcement before we get into this video. I actually got some great news today. Some really good news. It's something I had almost forgot about. The skateboard decks that I ordered for you all are on the way here. I know when I ordered them, it said it was going to take like 6 months for them to make these boards, but they're here. This is going to be the image that's going to be on those boards. It's only going to be 40 available, maybe 39 because I need one for myself. And when they get here, I'm going to announce that. And the grip tape also is going to have this face on it as well, but this is going to be underneath the skateboard. Big as I could have possibly made it on there. But y'all, I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm going to have my own skateboard decks, on AOK skateboard decks available for you guys. Limited run. I'm never doing this design again. It's going to be something different if I do skateboard decks ever again. This may be the only time I ever do them. Like I said, there's only going to be 39 of them available. Last thing I want to say before we get into this video. If y'all are not getting my videos recommended to you in the recommendation tab, go to subscriber tab. The subscriber tab is where I live. You guys are subscribed to me. So go there and you will see my videos. I post every single day, right? Just about, except for the weekends. But anyway, we're about to get into this video. Y'all boys and girls ready? I'm ready. Let's ball.
Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, and today we're going to look at 3 stories that demonstrate that. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please go to the like button's place of work 1 minute before closing time, and then proceed to browse around for about 30 minutes, and then leave without buying anything. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories.
Pause. So y'all saying we did this one already? My bad. Let me get the right one. I thought the same thing too. I was like, I feel like I've done this one. I feel like I've done this one already, but I don't remember the title of the video. Hold on real quick, y'all. Let me go get the correct video. Let me get the correct video. Yeah, yep, it was this one. Okay, so I see. It was supposed to be the most recent. There we go. All right, cool. My apologies. Let me grab the right video real quick, and we'll be back at it shortly. In the meantime, in between time, we'll let a few more people pile in here. Let's see here. Y'all funny, man. Y'all are funny. Yes! If this is your first live stream, make sure you go ahead and let us know that this is your first live stream with your boy. Because we in here. And we chilling like a villain. And I'm hot and sweating. I need to take these pants off, but I'm not going to. Alright. We're ready.
This story has a very graphic ending, so viewer discretion is advised. But
this video is titled The Most Feared Girl in Mexico. Mature audience only. If you ain't mature, you don't belong here. You understand? Let me go ahead and change the title while we're watching.
Before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please put a single metal fork in the like button's microwave, set it for 99 minutes, hit start, and then leave. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Before we get into today's story, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Back in 2015, when I was still in the military and was not on YouTube yet, I fell into a very deep depression. I was mad all the time, I was isolating myself, I was basically self-destructing. And eventually, after my family encouraged me to do so, I did go out and get help. I sought out a therapist, and honestly, looking back, I think that decision saved my life. So,
which is something that I highly recommend people doing. Get yourself a therapist. I think I'm about to give myself two things: a personal chef and a therapist.
When BetterHelp, which is a very highly reviewed online therapy platform, reached out to me and asked if we could partner, I immediately said yes, because I know therapy works. For the last couple of months, I've been using their platform, and it's great. It's easy to use, it's affordable, all their therapists are licensed and accredited, but in my opinion, the best and most unique aspect of BetterHelp is that it's all online. Back in 2015, I almost didn't seek out a therapist because I was so concerned about physically walking into the therapist's office and having someone who knows me see me walking in and judging me. But with BetterHelp, you can get the help you need from the comfort of your home and in total anonymity. Sign up is super easy. You just fill out a questionnaire, and then right away a therapist gets in touch with you and they set up a time to talk to you within 48 hours. And if you want to change your therapist at any time, it's free and very easy to do. So if you think talking to someone could benefit you like it benefited me, then go to betterhelp.com/Mrballen. That's better, H-E-L-P. And if you sign up using the Mrballen link in the description, you'll get 10% off your first month. Okay, let's get into today's story. The Sierra Madre Oriental is a major mountain range that starts on the southern border of Texas and Mexico and cuts 700 miles south through the northeastern section of Mexico. About halfway down this mountain range on the eastern face lies a series of caves, and situated below these caves at the foot of the mountains are several small villages that are very isolated, and they're populated primarily with illiterate poor farmers. One night back in May of 1963, a 14-year-old boy named Sebastian, who lived in one of these small isolated villages, decided to go for a walk up in the mountains, and he wanted to go explore the different caves. Now, this was something he did fairly regularly because there was a local rumor that there was actually hidden treasure in these different caves. Now, it's unclear if Sebastian literally believed that or if that was just kind of an excuse to go have a look around himself. But regardless, he headed out of his house and he began walking up the mountain towards these caves. The entrance to these caves were a couple hundred feet up the mountainside, and then each of the various entrances, which ranged in size from fairly small to enormous, were spread out a couple of miles in each direction. So Sebastian starts walking up the mountain towards the first entrance he can see. It's dark outside, he's got no flashlight, he's just walking up, and as he's walking, he notices off to his right, fairly far away from where he was, there was light coming out of one of the cave entrances. And he had never recalled seeing light coming out of any of these caves. Nobody ever went in these caves, especially not at night. night. And so his interest was piqued, and he decided he would kind of abandon his original plan to just kind of look around near his village, and he would actually walk all the way over to that lit up cave and see what was going on. So he turned right and began kind of walking uphill at an angle in the direction of this lit up cave. And so as he's walking, he's getting farther and farther away from the village where he lives, and he's starting to hear sounds coming out of this lit up cave entrance. It sounds like a person potentially, either they're laughing or they're screaming. He doesn't really know. He's thinking, maybe someone's having a party inside one of these caves. He has no idea. But after he gets maybe 200 or 300 feet away from this entrance, he realizes it's definitely a person, and they're definitely screaming. And it does not sound like they're screaming out of joy. It sounds like they're screaming because they're scared or they're in pain. And as he's getting closer and closer and closer to this cave, his anxiety is starting to ramp up because he's really starting to be frightened by what he's hearing. And he's starting to realize there's more than one person inside of this cave. In addition to the person that is screaming out, there also sounds to be a large contingent of other people that are either singing in unison or chanting in unison, but some group of people are doing something in unison while some other person is screaming out. And so he's really starting to get nervous about this cave, but he just can't help feeling curious about what was going on. And so he just continued walking until he was maybe 10 feet away from the entrance to this cave, and he plopped down behind a rock. And so he's not really sure if it's a good idea to look. He doesn't want to be spotted by whoever is in there, but finally he kind of works up the courage. He takes a deep breath, and he slips out from behind the rock, and he goes right to the edge of this big opening, maybe 10 foot across opening, and he peeks his head right around the edge of the opening, and he looks inside, and what he sees causes him to just freeze in terror. Then his survival instincts just kick in, and he turns and he starts running down the mountain away from this cave. He has no idea if he's been spotted or not, but he's sensing that someone could be chasing him, and so he is just running as if his life depended on it. And he would not run back to his village. Instead, he would run nearly 10 miles to the nearest police station. And when he gets there, he busts through the front doors, and he's totally hysterical. He's drenched in sweat, and the police officers are totally caught off guard, and so they're trying to tell him to calm down. And so Sebastian finally would kind of compose himself, but then he just was not able to describe what he had seen inside of this cave. Whatever he had seen, he knew it was bad, but the words were just escaping him. And so the way he described it to police was he basically thought he saw vampires. And as soon as he began describing vampires to the police, they're thinking to themselves, okay, I don't know what's going on with this kid, but this just cannot be serious. And so they consoled him and kind of calmed him down and said, look, kid, I don't know what you're talking about. If there's any news that comes out of something happening in the cave that's bad, I'm sure we'll hear about it and we'll follow up. But for now, we're just going to bring you back to your village. And so at this, Sebastian was really frustrated, and he was kind of pleading with the police, like, no, you got to take me seriously. There's something bad happening in this cave. Someone could be hurt. Someone could be dying. I don't know, but you got to go to this cave. You got to go see what's going on. But the police at this point, they're just not really interested. And so they ultimately do just drive him back to his village. And so he goes back into his home. The police go back to their station, and everyone just kind of goes to bed for the night. The next day, when Sebastian wakes up, he just can't shake what he saw inside of that cave. And so he would once again run back to the police station. And when he got there, he began pleading with the police, like, you gotta go see what's inside of this cave. I'm telling you, there's something awful in there. And this time, one of the police officers, his name was Luis Martinez, he would say, okay, kid, bring me to this cave and I'll have a look around. And so Luis and Sebastian, who was very grateful, they left the police station, they hopped in a police car, and they took off. And then later on in the day, the other police officers, who were not really paying attention to this cave thing, they realized that Luis and the boy had not returned yet, and Luis had not checked in via his radio. And so at some point in the afternoon that day, the other officers began calling out to Luis. They began calling him on his radio and trying to figure out what's going on, but he wasn't responding. And so the police thought that was odd, but they thought, you know what, I'm sure he'll be back soon. There's got to be an explanation for this. But the rest of the day would go by without Luis reaching out to them, and he didn't return with the boy. And so by that evening, the other officers were genuinely concerned that, something bad had happened to their colleague. And so they tried calling Luis a few more times on the radio. It didn't work. And so the officers, they made their way over to Sebastian's village, and they found Sebastian's family, believing that, maybe the boy was back and he could give some insight into where Luis went. But when they talked talk to Sebastian's family, they would say, hey, he's not back yet either. And so both Sebastian and Luis at this point have not talked to anyone all day, and they are missing. And so the police at this point, they realize this is an emergency. They need to figure out where these two went. And so they were kind of understaffed. And so they contacted the Mexican army, and they explained, we're missing one of our colleagues. We're missing a child from this village. And so the Mexican army would actually send out a military unit to assist them in going and finding these two people. And so the unit, they show up later that night, and the police and the Mexican army, they head out to where this cave was. And when they saw what was inside the cave, it would shock the world. To understand what was found inside of this cave, we need to go back 6 months to December of 1962. That month, two brothers, Santos and Cayetano Hernandez, who made their living basically traveling around Mexico, stealing from people and swindling people, they decided they were going to pull off their biggest heist yet. They were going to rip off an entire town. Their plan was to go into a small, fairly isolated village that was populated primarily with poor and illiterate people, and they would go in there and they would convince the villagers that they, the brothers, were actually prophets of an exiled Incan god. And if these villagers did everything they said, they would make them rich. And so the village the brothers identified as their target was a place called La Yerba Buena, which was located right at the foot of the Sierra Madre Oriental, right below where that cave was that Luis and Sebastian went to investigate. And La Yerba Buena was exactly what the brothers were looking for. It was home to only about 20 families that were all very poor and illiterate, and they were very suggestible. And so right before the new year, the Hernandez brothers strolled into La Yerba Buena, and they put on this very dramatic show explaining how they were the prophets of this Incan god. And these two brothers, they were very charismatic and they were excellent salesmen. And so they really sold the lie. And these villagers, who were very vulnerable and cut off really from the rest of the world, they believed them. They thought this was their big break. They're going to be rich. We just have to do whatever they say. And so almost immediately, the villagers effectively became the Hernandez brothers' slaves. They would give them anything they wanted and do anything they wanted. But after a couple of months...
So you heard how he said that those people basically became the brothers' slaves. A buddy of mine was telling me a story recently in regards to one of the reasons why Abraham Lincoln, fight to free slavery. And supposedly one of the statements that he made was he wanted them to go back, not to just be free, because he didn't feel as though black and whites could coexist together, to cohabitate, but he wanted them to go back to Africa, right? And one of the statements that he said supposedly was that anybody can be a slave. Any and everybody could be a slave, right? Not just black people. And this is kind of what happened. Like, these dudes enslave essentially their own kind by swindling them with their charisma.
Of this, some of the villagers started to be frustrated with the Hernandez brothers, the prophets, because it seemed like they were not really working towards making the villagers rich. Instead, it just seemed like they were horribly mistreating the villagers.
See, and that only makes sense because if you're not seeing what it is that these guys are promising, in due time you will see through the BS. In due time you will realize that they're really getting over on you and you're not gonna be rich.
And it just didn't feel like this was a relationship that was benefiting the villagers.
Right.
And so when this sentiment began to kind of make its way around these 70-ish people who lived in La Yerba Buena, the brothers picked up on it, and they could have, at that point, just kind of abandoned their gig. At this point, they've robbed the town dry. There's nothing left for them to give to the brothers.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the brothers decide instead to salvage their operation. And so the brothers, they leave the village and they go to a city that's relatively close by, and they recruit this young woman named Magdalena Solis. She was a prostitute, and they tell her, hey, we have this con we're doing in La Yerba Buena where we're pretending to be prophets of this Incan god, and they're they're starting not to believe our lie. And so we need you, if you're willing, to come with us and pretend to be an actual Incan goddess. And so when you show up, they'll know that we were serious, that we have a direct line to the Incan gods and goddesses, and they'll believe us again, and they'll fall back in line. And so Magdalena...
These fools are that dumb. Instead of, yo, oh crap, we've been caught, it's time to hightail it out of here, they go and recruit somebody else to keep their lie going. Oh my God. Look, the same thing will happen again. Just let enough time go by and they're going to realize that she's just as big a phony as you guys are. Oh my God. What? I wonder how much they paid her. Somebody said $5. Eric Smith said, yo, the things people will do for $5. Yo.
She likes the idea of participating in this con, and so she agrees to do it in exchange for some money.
Of course she would like that idea. It gotta be better than her daytime job.
And so she, along with the Hernandez brothers and Magdalena's brother, his name was Eliezer, and he functioned as her pimp. Those 4 people, they went back to Yerba Buena.
I knew she had a pimp. It's not very often the prostitutes go out here and, do this thing without a man that's controlling the operation. It can get dangerous. They need somebody to keep them protected. That's where the pimp come in.
And when they got there, the Hernandez brothers snuck Magdalena past all the villagers up to that cave up in the mountains. And they put her in the back of the cave. They kind of hid her behind some rocks, and they dressed her up in an Incan goddess costume. And then once she was in there, the brothers went back down to the village, and they rounded all the villagers up and said, come on, let's go up to the cave. We have a special ceremony for you. And so the villagers made their way up to this cave. And once they were all inside, the Hernandez brothers used some basic magic tricks and created basically a smoke screen. Once they had this smoke screen kind of billowing in the back of the cave, they secretly signaled to Magdalena, who was behind the smoke screen.
You know what's unfortunate? And don't attack me for this, but this type of stuff still happens all over the world. It's not very common that people are easily swindled here in America like this. But in places like Mexico, some places in Asia and India and stuff like that, Africa, where, it might be a poor region, they're more susceptible to believing stuff like this. Still to this day. I see the videos. Y'all seen the videos. If you watched enough of this channel, y'all seen it. It's unfortunate.
And she knew that was her cue, and she leapt through the smoke, and she presented herself to the villagers for the first time, and she declared herself to be a reincarnated Incan goddess. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to kill you. And so the message she was sending to the villagers was so intense, they completely believed that this was an Incan goddess, and therefore this was not a ruse. The brothers were not lying to them. This was all very real. There's a real goddess in front of us. And so they immediately fell right back in line.
I wish we had pictures of how this goddess looked. We saw a picture of her, and she was an attractive enough young lady, but I wonder how much more attractive they made her when they put her into this costume. How believable was the act?
The plan worked exactly as the brothers wanted it to. However, there was an element of their plan they could not possibly have accounted for. And that was what Magdalena did next. Even though Magdalena was fully aware that what she was getting herself into was an act, it was a con, it was not real. Despite that, as soon as she jumped through the smoke and was standing in front of the villagers for the first time and saw the looks on these people's faces as they stared up at her, and she saw their reverence for her,
I think I know where this is going. So Mr. Ballin said that the brothers couldn't have planned for what happened next in regards to the girl, the prostitute. I bet you I know what's about to happen, but I'm going to let him say it.
It had this profound impact on her. This is a woman who's never had control in her life. She's been a prostitute since a young age. And here she is, the most powerful person in the room, and it's not even close. And it got to her head. And
bam! Exactly. That's exactly what I thought. That this newfound power that she was going to acquire got to her head. This is why women cannot rule this country. The power will get to the head. We can't do it. We can't do it. I was just playing.
So when she left the cave that night, she literally believed she was a reincarnated Incan goddess, and she was not a merciful one. Within the first few days of her stay at
Ooh, he said that she literally believed that she was this goddess and she was not a merciful one. That would make some sense, considering the job that she had prior. She experienced some rough stuff. She had a hard life. And this is almost like, hey, I've been put in a position of power. Let me take back control and let me do upon others what was done upon me. Some people will feel that way. I'm sorry, there was something in my eye was irritating me. You know, you had some bad stuff happen to you. You might want to lash out and do some bad things to some people, even if those people may not be deserving of it, because you yourself may feel as though you were not deserving of the treatment that you received. It's unfortunate.
Yerba Buena, Magdalena used threats of violence on the villagers to completely take over the village. She very easily supplanted the Hernandez brothers at the top of the power structure. Now, the Hernandez brothers probably were quite surprised to see this happen because they were expecting Magdalena to play more of a prop role to keep them in power, not the other way around. But ultimately, they kind of just went along with it because through Magdalena's control over the villagers, they were able to continue to exploit the villagers. And so they were getting what they wanted out of this relationship. Within a few weeks of being in La Yerba Buena, Magdalena was not only abusing every villager in every horrible way imaginable.
See what I mean? That's insane. To think these people were out here unbothered, detached from the rest of the world, 20 or more little isolated families. When I say isolated, I mean their group was isolated, but it was around 20 families or more. To think these people, unbothered, untouched, and now these evil mofos want to come in and disrupt that and harm them. All to get over on them. They're going to hell. That's where they belong. Wow.
She also was becoming completely delusional. She convinced herself that in order to survive, she needed to start drinking blood. And so...
Oh my God. She is... delusional as heck. Delusional as heck, man. It kind of has you think about the Illuminati, where the Illuminati might convince folks that they got to do sacrifices and stuff like this to be in the position of power or to have riches and wealth and all this type of stuff. She's doing this mess to herself. She's brainwashing herself. How ignorant do you got to be to brainwash yourself? I didn't know there was an Athens in Alabama. Shout out to you. Thank you for the don't know. Man, what? What are we watching here, man? This is crazy. This is crazy. Somebody mentioned that I should have a Discord for so I can let people know when I'm going live and stuff. We had a Discord before, for those of you who remember. It was a ish show. No more. It was very toxic up in there. I had to get rid of it, so no more Discord. But Twitter, Instagram, I announced it there. And Facebook as well. If you follow me on Facebook, it goes up there too.
She demanded all the villagers provide her with blood, and so in
Artofkickz everywhere. You should know that. You should know that. It's your boy. Going back a little bit.
To survive, she needed to start drinking blood. And so she demanded all the villagers provide her with blood.
Ew, she gonna get sick. She might catch a disease.
And so in fear of retribution, the villagers began slaughtering all of their farm animals and their own pets so Magdalena could drink their blood.
What the fuck is wrong? See, that would actually make it more believable that she's this mystical goddess. If she's over here really drinking blood.
For weeks and weeks and weeks, the horrible abuse Magdalena would dole out on the villagers would continue, and these blood rituals would continue. And then finally, sometime in April, 2 of the villagers decided, you know what? I've had enough. I don't believe Magdalena is actually an Incan goddess. I don't believe the Hernandez brothers are actually prophets.
Somebody was trying to be a big brain over here. What's gonna happen?
I think this is all a scam. And so they decided the way they would handle this is they were just going to flee the village. Now, somehow their plans to run away got out, and the Hernandez brothers found out about it, and they, in turn, told Magdalena about it. And when she heard the news,
I bet she's like, all right, end their life. Because she sounds like she's that horrible of a person that she would just say, end their life. They want to leave, kill them. I bet you.
she immediately told everyone in the village to make their way up to the cave for a special ceremony. So all the villagers, including the 2 people that were planning on running away, they made their way up to the cave, and once everyone was inside, Magdalena walked to the front of the group, and she pointed at the 2 dissenters, the 2 people that were planning on running, and she demanded that the rest of the villagers kill them. And
oh my gosh, she is horrible. She went as far as having the rest of the villagers do it? Not just having the brothers do it. No. Having their own people turn on them. Oh my God. What is wrong with this chick? They hired the wrong prostitute. Fellas, don't hire the wrong prostitute. You don't want to do that. You might end up in a crazy predicament. Oh, God. This is wild. What?
on the spot, all of the other villagers jumped on top of the 2 dissenters and they lynched them. They beat them to death in the cave. And then after these 2 people have been killed, Magdalena orders their bodies be strung up on these 2 pikes.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a cult. It's like they turned these innocent people into a cult.
She had set up in the back of the cave because she knew what she was going to be doing up in this cave. And so after these 2 bodies were strung up on these pikes, Magdalena grabs a chalice and she walks over to these 2 bodies and she presses the chalice up against their bodies where they're bleeding from, and she fills it up and then she drinks from the chalice.
Ew, she drank their blood. First it was animals' blood, now it's people blood. She crazy.
And at this point, everything changed. Suddenly, Magdalena understood that it wasn't good enough to just be drinking animal blood. That was not enough to keep her, a goddess, alive. She now could only consume human blood. And so for the next several weeks...
Hey, shout out to Ashley, 3 months being the channel member. Thank you, big baby.
Periodically, Magdalena would order everyone in the village to go back up to the cave for a blood ritual, which they all knew what this entailed. This no longer had anything to do with animals. This was human blood rituals. She would order them up and they would have no idea who was going to be the sacrifice. And so all these people, they get inside this dark cave, and then Magdalena shows up and she stands in front of them, and after kind of looking them over, she identifies her next sacrifice.
Yo, what the freak? This woman's crazy. Oh my God. She's just killing the villagers for no reason. She's like, I want to drink people blood now. What? Oh my God. It's Ashley M. Shout out to you. Thank you for the cash in the app. Don't knows. From yesterday. Forgot to tell you. But this right here, man, what the? That's so jacked up, man. And how dumb are these people? I mean, I get it, they're being manipulated and controlled, but still, you think I'm about to go up to a mountain where this lady might just be having a bad day or just on some random selection decides to pick me? Next thing I know, I'm going to be in attack by people that I consider friends and family? And now they're about to string me up and ring me out? No! I'm going to get her before she get me. What? Oh, heck no. No, mom is with.
And out of fear, the other villagers, who were the friends and family of the victim, would launch themselves on top of the chosen sacrifice and lynch them in the cave. And then...
That's crazy. Your own friends and family listening to this complete freaking strange stranger. She's not just a stranger, she's strange. She's a strange stranger. Stranger danger.
Afterwards, their body would be strung up on one of the pikes, and Magdalena would walk over with her chalice. She would fill it with blood, and she would drink it. And so this would go on and on for several weeks. And one of the most distressing aspects of these human sacrifices is that as she did more and more and more of them, Magdalena got it in her head that beating the sacrifice to death before consuming their blood was spoiling the blood in some way. And so what she began doing was she would have the other villagers beat the sacrifice into submission, and then she would have the sacrifice strung up to one of the pikes while they were still alive, and then she would carve their heart out while they were alive, and then she would drink their blood. So in May of 19...
Oh my God. I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated right now. Yo, what the freak, man? Yo. I'm frustrated for two reasons, right? I'm frustrated that these freaking villagers are allowing this to happen to their people. And the second reason I'm frustrated is because here's another one of these stories of some crazy mess that has happened on this planet, in this world, that you would never even have known about had Mr. Mrballen told this story. Like, I would have never known this. This is crazy. To think that this has happened. This has happened. This is real.
63, when Sebastian, the 14-year-old boy, when he poked his head around and looked into that cave, he watched one of these sacrifices having their heart cut out. And he didn't know what to make of it, and so he ran.
And that's the other thing, too. Like, this woman is getting worse. It's already bad enough to have your own friends and families beat you to death and then to have this woman drink your blood, but to have them to beat you into submission and then cut your heart out while you're still alive? Nobody deserves that. These people did nothing wrong. Oh, she deserves a special place in hell. Right next to Lucifer himself. Sheesh. This is crazy.
The police, and then the next day, he and the police officer, Luis Martinez, they would go back to the cave, and Magdalena and her cult would spot them, capture them, and drag them both into the cave, and both of them would be ritualistically sacrificed. They would have their hearts cut out.
No way, wait a minute, hold on, let me hear that again. I had a brain fart. I disappeared for a second mentally.
Martinez, they would go back to the cave, and Magdalena and her cult would spot them, capture them, and drag.
Google be listening too hard. I did not call out Google to play whatever the heck is in there playing on Spotify. It said, sure, I'm going to play blah, blah, blah on Spotify. Well, what? Ain't nobody talking to Google. Hey, Google! And now it's not even responding. Do y'all hear that? Hey, Google! How How's it gonna answer me when I didn't call it, but now it's not answering me when I'm actually calling it? Hey Google, stop music. That was weird. Sorry about that, you guys.
Them both into the cave, and both of them would be ritualistically sacrificed. They would have their hearts cut out, and Magdalena would drink their blood.
Oh my God. You see what I'm talking about? Like, they don't deserve that. Or they were just looking. They didn't do nothing wrong. Poor kid.
The police and army arrived in La Yerba Buena. It was a ghost town because all of the villagers had been ordered up to the cave where they had barricaded themselves inside with weapons because Magdalena probably knew there was going to be a big police response because one of their officers has gone missing out here. They're bound to be found out. And so when the police and the army reached the cave...
Oh my God, that is so crazy. Like, she figured, she's like, oh my God, y'all, hey, look, we're going to have to barricade ourselves in this cave with weapons and stuff because they're probably going to come looking for these people. Like, she didn't think about that before she just had that happen. Like, how dumb are you? And on top of that, to think about the position that these people are in to where now they have to defend themselves, fight off what could be the police because they're all brainwashed. Man, this is so crazy.
There's this big shootout with all of the villagers, and during the shootout, the majority of the villagers are killed. Also, the Hernandez brothers, they're also killed in the shootout. And then after the shootout stops, the police and the army would go into this cave, and they would discover the pikes, the bloody pikes that are in the back of the cave with bits of human remains all over the ground. And then they would leave the cave, and they would search the town.
Man, I would think that whatever was happening here, this is like something from a horror movie. I would think that, like, this is like demonic. Like, there's actually been some demons here, and these demons are creating and controlling all of this. Like, depending on what you believe, that actually is the case. This woman is being controlled by a demon, a devil. In order for her to move in the way that she's moving, there's a demon there. There's some evil presence, you know? Oh my God.
And they would find the remains of Luis and Sebastian outside a particular shack. And then inside the shack was Magdalena and her brother Eliezer. They were still alive. They were trying to hide from the authorities. And so
they should have played dead, rubbed blood all over them and just laid there. That's what I would have did.
Be arrested. It's believed Magdalena sacrificed and drank the blood of at least 15 of the villagers over a 6-week period. However,
What? 15 people in 6 weeks? Dang, she was doing 2 blood sacrifices a week.
The only remains to be positively identified were Luis Martinez and Sebastian Guerrero. Ultimately, Magdalena and her brother Eliezer were sentenced to 50 years in prison, and all of the surviving villagers who participated in these sacrifices or who participated in the shootout with police and the army, they were given 30 years in prison.
Oh my God, man. I bet them. What's crazy is they said that a lot of the villagers were killed in the shootout with the police officers. 12 members of this cult was found guilty of murder and end up being sentenced 30 years in prison. I bet you during that time they're in prison, they were probably thinking, you know what? We got tricked. Because if she was who she said she was, nothing would have went the way it would have. We all would be rich. She tricked us.
Amazingly, none of the villagers ever testified against Magdalena or her brother, despite the fact they were almost certainly offered reduced sentences in exchange for their testimony.
Never mind. That just completely completely debunked what I assumed. I thought they would have came to their senses. Oh man, she got us. No, they didn't even testify against her. None of the villagers. They're dumb. They picked the perfect targets. Hate to say it, but them brothers, they picked the perfect targets.
Clearly, they were more terrified of the Incan goddess than they were terrified of the prospect of 30 years in prison.
Wow, that makes some sense though. For them to have, they're more terrified of the Incan goddess than they are spending 30 years in prison, because I'm assuming they're thinking, well, hell, when my prison sentence is up, I have to go back to my town where she's gonna be. It's probably what they're thinking. Or they're thinking, hell, her during time in prison, that's nothing. She's resurrected from the dead. You know, a lot of them Hispanic folks, when it comes to their spiritual belief and the paranormal and stuff, they believe heavy. They believe hard. But no, this is, oh my God, this is so unfortunate. This is so unfortunate that they're more afraid of her, and plus they seen what she's capable of, than they are spending time in prison.
Although the exact date of when this happened is not known, Magdalena would eventually die behind bars. So that's going to do it, guys.
And that wouldn't do much to scare them. Or they probably wouldn't even think they were free of that. Oh, she died in prison? Yeah, she was sentenced 50 years. They're probably thinking, well, heck, I mean, when she dies, she's going to come back. And my kids are going to have to deal with her. Or my grandkids. I don't know. But this is crazy, man. This story, I'm going to send this one to some friends, man. They're going to trip out over this story here. Tara, shout out to you. Thank you for the $5 don't know. Noel G, what's going on with you, big baby? Thank you for the don't knows, brother. We in here. Alex, I see you. Favorite YouTuber. You're more than welcome. Thank you, my God. But y'all, we made it. We made it to the end of what was an insane story, man. I'm about to send this to some people. They gonna be tripping on this. But y'all know what time it is. Y'all like this live stream, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more. As always, the link to the original gonna be down in the description box below. If you haven't already, make sure you follow your boy on the gram and Twitter at Artofkickz. Don't forget, skateboard decks coming soon. They're on the way. Limited run, about 39 of them, because one is gonna be for me. And don't forget, look in your description box. Not description, subscription. Your subscribers. Look there if you don't see or recommended or my videos. That's where I'm hiding. I'm hiding in your subscription. Stop going to the homepage. But anyway, I'm going to catch you beautiful people in the next one. Y'all be safe. See ya.